Star Wars Battlefront 3. Oh boy. We have talked about the prospects of this sequel happening a lot on the channel over the past couple years, as the natural question when Battlefront 2 came to an end was, well, when is Battlefront 3 coming out? So, we've talked about it a bit on the channel, but I haven't discussed Battlefront 3's prospects or anything about it really since like last year. And the Star Wars game, and I mean Star Wars community in general, has been campaigning for this game in a big way for over 2 years now. But it just hasn't happened. Some leaks and quote-unquote credible sources in the industry have tried throwing a line out there for Battlefront 3 leaks over time, but all of which to this day still seems to be complete cap. But in light of recent events and confirmations and time gone by, I think we have found the real reason that Battlefront 3 just isn't happening, and is never going to happen. And before we get into that reason, we have a quick sponsor for today's video. You guys know all about them by now, that being Owner Saber. They are running another huge giveaway special until June the 12th. They're going to be giving away 4 100% off codes that can be used on any of their lightsabers. 2 codes each will be posted on their Instagram and their YouTube, so make sure you go follow those socials. To stop bots, they will be mixing fake codes and real codes when it's announced, so everyone gets a fair shot. The codes will be posted on the 15th of June on their Instagram and YouTube channel, and the winners can email or DM Owner Saber on Instagram for a shout out as well. And of course, they will be running 30% off all of their Xenopixel lightsaber range for the duration of this special. Links to everything will be in the description below. But now let's dive into the video. So, the real reason Battlefront 3 is not happening, despite how blatantly obvious the decision to greenlight the game is, can be summed up with just one word: stigma. This word is the reason Battlefront 3 isn't happening. Lucasfilm Games and EA are that scared to go near the Battlefront name again due to the stigma surrounding it. But Ozzy, you incredibly handsome down under specimen, everybody loves Battlefront 2, I hear you say. Well, that's not exactly how other people see it. There is still an absolutely rotten cloud around the Battlefront name that, despite Battlefront 2's massive redemption story, is seemingly still there and is more than enough for EA and Lucasfilm Games to not want to go near the IP again. If they did, they would have done it by now. We've seen several big names in the industry say that they'd be stupid to not make Battlefront games, but then a month later, they say that they're just not going to do it because of the bad juju surrounding the IP. Now, we know about EA supposedly rejecting DICE's pitch for a Battlefront 3 due to licensing costs, despite the fact, they greenlit 3 other Star Wars games straight after that claim was made, so take that how you will. I'm not going to go into it again, I've already said my piece on that. But with recent confirmations like Jedi Survivor just a couple weeks ago and Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, the more that Star Wars games keep on getting confirmed and announced, it just continues to raise the question surrounding the Battlefront franchise making a return. Like, if you had have told me 2 years ago that in 2022 we would have like 9 confirmed Star Wars games in the works, and not one of them would be a Battlefront game, then I would have slapped the death sticks out of your hand and told you to go home and rethink your life. But that somehow is actually the reality that we live in. Like, that actually happened, which is mind-blowing to so many people. Now let's go back to Battlefront 2015. We look back on its complete product and probably have pretty fond memories, at least I know that I do. I loved this game by its end, but let's not shy away from the fact that this game was actually pretty bad when it came out. Yeah, it sold really well and it looked incredible and the graphics still hold up 7 years later, but the game was hollow, it had no campaign, it had no content, and an expensive paid season pass, which was pretty much where the majority of the game's content actually was. It was clearly rushed out the door to launch alongside The Force Awakens, like it wasn't a good look. And it was just the start, because Battlefront 2's launch fiasco happened, and the Battlefront name could not have been more negative and unrepairable than it was at that moment. I still occasionally look back and actually forget how big of a deal Battlefront 2's launch was. Everybody was talking about it. It changed the industry forever. It changed government law, for Christ's sake. It was a huge deal, and for every negative reason. But then, Battlefront 2 eventually went back to the drawing board, and over the course of 2 years, DICE eventually fixed the game and made it almost what it was supposed to be. We all know the redemption story, so I'm not going to recap it. The game just got more and more popular and was just about reaching its launch numbers again. And it seems like the stigma, there's that word again, that one word, had completely shifted surrounding the Battlefront name. But here lies the problem. Us Star Wars fans, we kind of live in our own little bubble. We might not like to admit it, but we do. We know that Battlefront 2 by its end was a great game, and it well and truly turned things around, but the casual, the man in the suit and tie, the whales that invest in these companies, they probably don't have a damn clue just how much the game turned itself around. For example, so many people still to this day comment stuff like Battlefront 2 is pay to win, it's pay to win, it sucks. People actually still think that. The stigma that the Battlefront name created for itself with its issues is clearly still there. Not to mention, if they do go and greenlight a Battlefront 3, then that game is going to be under the microscope like you wouldn't believe. Every single person that has ever heard the name Battlefront before is going to be honing in on any issue this game has. Things that most games get away with, Battlefront 3 simply would not get away with. It would get treated harsher, it would get smashed for any microtransaction system it would have. Even if it was just purely cosmetic and up to the individual player if they wanted to spend money or not, which is how it should be. They would still cop backlash for that. Basic things that all games do these days would just not fly with a Battlefront 3 because of what happened with Battlefront 2. The negative pay-to-win stigma is still there, despite what DICE did with Battlefront 2 in its post-launch lifespan, bringing the game back. To be honest, I think the biggest error in this entire plan is EA ending Battlefront 2 support. I know it was over 2 years ago now, we're all over it, but it was a big problem. It was a stupid thing to do. To this day, it still remains the core problem of this entire conversation, but I don't want to harp on that. I've made plenty of videos highlighting how bad of a decision that was from EA, so I just don't want to go into it again. But another reason that I did want to discuss in this video regarding this whole Battlefront fiasco, I think Battlefield 2042 has a massive part to play in this, to be honest. DICE, of course, made Battlefront and Battlefield side by side for years. A lot of people think of Battlefront as Battlefield with a Star Wars skin, which, to be honest, is not entirely untrue. And unless you've been living under a rock, you'd know that Battlefield is just a red hot shambles. A lot of key developers and personnel have left DICE, and 2042 was a gamble that EA took by dropping Battlefront 2 to pull full focus onto 2042. And the gamble didn't work. In fact, it couldn't have gone worse. The fact Battlefield is doing so bad right now, and that so many core developers have left DICE, it's no wonder that they're not doing a Battlefront 3. If they can't even get Battlefield right, why would we as fans want them to continue making Battlefront games, let alone EA themselves continue making Battlefront games? That is why I think the odds of seeing a Battlefront series continuation under EA is virtually 0%. This is where Lucasfilm Games, as the overseer of Star Wars games as a whole, needs to offload this IP to another publisher, to reboot the Battlefront franchise, learn from the mistakes that DICE and EA made, and make the right game from the start, with a fresh developer hungry to work on a big multiplayer Star Wars shooter, which is the only thing that the upcoming slate of Star Wars games is missing. And let's be honest, it's a pretty damn big thing to be missing. 9 or something confirmed Star Wars games, but no big multiplayer shooter? That's almost unfathomable, considering that pretty much all of the previous games were multiplayer shooters. But I think the answer lies within the one word that we've been talking about. The stigma surrounding the Battlefront name is still there. And I think Lucasfilm Games are just waiting and buying their time to relaunch into this franchise again. But I mean, it's been 5 years since Battlefront 2 came out. I think the time is coming for Lucasfilm Games to greenlight this game, or at least make something similar, because single player fans, they're taken care of. They're looking real good, and it's a really good slate that they've got coming. But half of the demographic of their player base has absolutely nothing to look forward to. No multiplayer shooters at all. Something definitely does need to change. But guys, those are my thoughts on the Battlefront franchise right now. Where I think it is, where I think it's going, all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, or if you agreed with me. Check out Owner Saber through those links below, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you are new for more Star Wars game videos. But that's it for me. Take care.